and something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast. We have a special phone number tonight because my phone lines are still screwed up. So we're taking Skype calls through the guys from Queens. Andrew Zarian has actually been running the boards for us tonight. It's 718-717-2200, 717-2200, or you can Skype in at GFQ Hotline. Excuse me. If you are new to the broadcast, don't know who I am or why I'm here, I am the founder of the American Hair Loss Association, author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and this is a on-air support group for men and women dealing with hair loss. Now, I say this all the time. It may sound insane to you if you are not dealing with hair loss. And if that's the case, then move on. But the likelihood that you have a friend, family member, loved one who's dealing with hair loss is it's pretty high. You know, 2/3 of men by the age of 35 suffer with some degree of hair loss. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. And this is a silent epidemic of biblical proportions. I mispronounced that, right? It's epidemic of biblical proportions that affects just about every household in the world. And sadly, because of that fact, and because so many people are affected, at least in the U.S., we were dealing with about a $3.5 billion a year industry. And even though so many people are affected with hair loss, for whatever reason, society doesn't allow us to talk about it. It is taboo to be concerned about your hair loss. If you're a man, forget about it. If you're a woman, it's how are you going to talk about hair loss? Most society kind of puts hair loss, when they think of hair loss in women, they think of illness. They think of cancer. They think of maybe alopecia areata. But they don't realize how common androgenetic or male/female pattern baldness is in women. You know, when you look at women in the street, you see, you know, maybe their hair doesn't look that great, the color's a little off, the part is widening. That is female pattern hair loss, and there's all different stages. And women can start the genetic process, just like men, when they are teenagers. So it is a huge, huge issue. If you're a kid dealing with hair loss, I mean, that is absolutely devastating. It's a little bit more palatable for society to understand why people will be concerned about that. But because we cannot talk about it, the vulnerable hair loss sufferers out there are, you know, they're easy to take advantage of. And a lot of people don't realize that hair loss needs to be looked at as a medical condition. It really isn't something that you should be buying products or services for through infomercials or through the internet or from some guy's online, you know, ebook claiming that he found the cure for hair loss, because that's bullshit. And I say this, I repeat myself all the time because I've been doing this for 14 years and I'm also getting a little old. But if someone actually had the cure for hair loss, they would be on the cover of Time magazine. It would be world-breaking news. You're not going to find the cure for hair loss on some shitty website from some guy, living in a basement in Queens. No offense, guys. No offense to Coco. I'm just kidding, by the way. And the bottom line is that you need to take this seriously if you are going to try to do something about your hair loss. And I'm not saying you're not taking it seriously, those people who are being ripped off, because I was ripped off. I didn't understand how to do my due diligence at the beginning. And when I started, there was really nothing out there for me. You're talking the late 80s. God, I'm dating myself. And minoxidil wasn't even approved for hair loss yet. That's how that was the dark ages. So, guys who are dealing with it now, women who are dealing with it now, realize we have so many options now that we didn't have back in the day. None of them are perfect, but there is real hope out there. So if you're considering buying any product or service to treat your hair loss, please first check with the American Hair Loss Association, check with this broadcast, go online and do your due diligence, because there's great information online too. It's just so difficult to, decipher what's real and what's not, because everybody's trying to sell you some shit. It's important that you know, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we sell no products or services to the public. And you're going to get the truth here. The truth as I know it. And I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. Too long, as a matter of fact. Sometimes I feel like banging my head against the wall. That's how long it's been. Let me give out the phone number, 718-717-2200. That's 718-717-2200. I'm going to see if... I got my music potted up. I'm going to see if I can pot up Andrew to see if we have a call. Andrew, how are you tonight, man?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on? I did hear the issue when I hear myself on Stickam. The music is clear. It's only when it goes through Skype. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think I figured out the issue. I think we could get it fixed in a week.
Well, that means you're going to have to come out here.
I think so. I think TBT Studios has to fly me out there.
Well, you're invited for sure. But we were talking about going on vacation and stuff. Coming here is not a vacation for me. So if you want to come out here for a couple of days for business, you're certainly invited. But if we're going to do something like a vacation, we got to go someplace else.
So why don't I come out there and then we go from there somewhere?
That's a good possibility.
Might be cheap.
It actually might. Well, it'd definitely be cheaper if I'm flying you out to L.A.
Yeah, I think so. You have a caller on line 1. I think it's Joe.
All right, let's take Joe. Joe, what's happening, man?
Yes, I'd like to devote this program to the memory of your late brother, Alan, who tragically and unexpectedly died on June 17th, 2006. I'm sure with a wonderful brother like you, he was a wonderful man. And my heart goes out to him and his family on his Father's Day. All I could say is, let's just think about him tonight. Devote the show to his memory. Thank you, Spencer.
My name is Joe from Staten Island.
Excuse me.
Would you like to may reiterate it? Have you heard it? Excuse me.
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, thank you so much for that. That was really touching, and I appreciate you remembering the anniversary of my brother's death every year. That really, really means a lot to me. And yeah, let's dedicate this program to my brother Al, my late brother Al, who was tragically killed 6 years ago today, run down by a distracted driver right outside the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland. Is it College Park? Yeah, College Park, Maryland. It was a tragedy that, touches the lives of not just our family and his family, but, he was a very loved person in his community. And, the outpouring of well wishes and condolences and all that stuff, whatever I guess people do when someone dies, was unreal. I've never seen so many people in a funeral. So my brother obviously touched a lot of lives. So thank you for that, Joe. Let's get on to something a little bit more cheerful.
Well, I had to do this in honor of you, Spencer.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, I have plenty of cheerful news. As you know, well aware of, I had the honor of meeting you. Well, I'm not meeting you, seeing you again, and meeting Andrew, Coco, and the rest of the guy from Queen's staff.
Andrew, can you bring up his volume a little bit? I'm trying to bring it up.
Physically, he's very, very physically gritting on me, and it took a lot out of me. And as you know, I was under the influence of many psychotropic medications to do it, but it was well worth it. You look great, man. Your hair never looked better. I have to say that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And you look pretty well yourself until the end. When you walked in, you looked really good. I was like, wow, Joe really hasn't aged too much. I mean, you looked healthy and all, the good stuff. Then towards the end, it was like you were nodding out like a heroin addict.
Yes, of course, the medications at that point were taken, very heavily. And as you know, I had to see my doctor after that. So, but it was well worth the effort. As you know, I do suffer from agoraphobia. It's one of my, illnesses. But it was well worth seeing you again and meeting Andrew, Coco, and the entire guy from Queens staff, and of course your lovely wife, Blank.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you. It really was. And you seemed so upset when we were talking on the free for all that we went out, after the conference. Especially the final night when we went out. But you weren't around, and you already told us and told me that what a struggle it was for you to get to this conference and to leave the house and be out for so many hours. So next time when I'm in the city and we're all hanging out, we will, whether at Sapphires or whatever, we'll let you know.
So maybe I apologize for that.
Don't apologize. You got to speak up because I can't hear you that well.
Sometimes it's hard, man. Just get out there. Maybe next time you come in, we could work it out better where I'll be able to, really get pumped up and spend time with you and Andrew and Coco.
Well, maybe we'll just go, to like our old favorite steakhouse, and you can get a little lit. We'll meet you there at the bar.
That would be great. That would be great. And you are correct. I did modify my bandage look. I did modify it, as you noticed.
There was definitely a modification there. When I first met you, how many years ago, I forget now, you couldn't really see the bandage as much. It was there, but it wasn't as visible. This actually looked like, I guess you had some sort of a plastic adhesive bandage with like a paper covering on it that looked like toilet paper. I have to tell you, it looked like you had a piece of toilet paper coming out of your head.
Well, for my new look, I have incorporated headsets into my new apparatus to make it less visible for the public. And I wore a special one for that day because I know you'd be looking. It's your job. You have no choice. But I knew I'd be on display.
Well, it's not that you were on display. It's just that your bandage came out about 4.5 inches from your hat. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have been on display. You look like you're wearing one of those French Foreign Legion hats. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't think what you say.
I said you look like you're wearing one of those French Foreign Legion hats. But just kind of cut off, not quite as long in the back.
Do you think that the surgical mask was a good look? Or?
I wouldn't say it was a good look, but it was certainly effective for the photographs.
Yes. Well, I tried. But I've seen you for years, Spencer. I'll be honest with you. Your hair does appear grayer in person as opposed to on the air. On the air, you absolutely have no gray hair at all. But in person, some gray hair. I'm
not some gray hair. I'm more than 50% gray. I mean, that's the way that it is. I tell you guys that all the time. The lights, and it could be the camera itself in this studio, doesn't pick up the gray. And I notice I have the same issue in photographs. When I'm photographed, for the most part, my hair doesn't look gray.
Yes, I do have. As you know, I did have the Andrew staff take photo. I do have photographs in my possession, and I studied them. Your hair does not look gray at all.
But like this guy in the chat room, he says he can't believe people get upset about going gray. I don't. I think it's it's a rite of passage. I feel so fortunate that I've been able to turn gray. I will never dye my hair, and it's going to be white. I give it about 5 years, maybe a little longer, till it's like mostly white. And that's it. That's the way that it is, man. My beard is white too. My mustache is still, on the goatee is still pretty dark, but eventually that's going to be white too. What am I going to do? That's life.
Well, you look fantastic, Harvey. Your security staff was not too friendly. They were like kind of like Coke-like, giving me kind of strange looks until you called them off me, which is very comforting.
Well, you got all these. I got all these, insane people online. I have no idea who's going to be there, dude. When I say that I'm going to be someplace in public, I have no idea if one of these guys from the online world are going to come out and try to shank me. So what do you expect?
Well, no, I appreciate you calling them off me because I thought I'd be wrestled to the ground any moment, but you intervened personally. I appreciated that.
You're being a little melodramatic. It wasn't that bad. I mean, they just kind of like stepped up. What are they supposed to do? That's their job.
Well, I could tell that I could see the bolts. They were carrying heavy weapons. That was pretty obvious. You know, as a former law enforcement officer, that was obvious to me that that they're carrying pretty heavy weapons. But I didn't get into it with them.
Well, I'm Andrew. Andrew, can you hear us,
Sorry.
man? Because I'm having trouble hearing Joe. Is it that it's not loud enough, or is it his connection?
I haven't potted up all the way. Sometimes he gets a little quiet, but
yeah.
Joe, wait, do you hear me better now?
By the way, Andrew sounds awesome. Are you using the same mic?
I want to put it into Andrew. Is a very handsome boy, and I dissected his hair. He has absolutely no hair loss. To be honest with you.
You said I'm a Norwood 1.
No, I said you're the mature hairline.
Yeah, which is a little bit above a Norwood 1, but I don't think he's balding. I mean, you don't think I was looking? And I'll tell you one thing about Andrew, man. He got a little loaded at Sapphire, and I caught him. He was sitting on my right side for a little bit, and I felt the stare. He was like trying to stare through the hairspray. He was trying to figure it out. Very uncomfortable, Andrew.
Sometimes I'm just staring to see if there's like hair glued to your hair. Like, I don't know. Maybe there might be a big surprise there.
That would be pretty. How would I do that exactly? How would I glue it to my hair? You can glue it to your scalp.
Oh, what you do, you take a little hair, like your haircut. You save it, you put it in a little bucket, and then you put it on your head and you hairspray it.
Now, who thinks about I guess you think about that for the future.
I have thought about that many times.
Now, you actually have a family of beautiful hair. You and your wife have, I mean, just, if you have kids, they're going to be some hairy kids.
Well, I'm hoping that they take after my wife with the hair, because she has unbelievable hair.
Yeah, great.
She was beautiful, Andrew. I have to say that.
Thank you, Joe.
Good-looking woman, man. Good-looking family. All right, Joe, so let's get some news. What's going on?
The sufferers are demanding, the breaking news of the evening. They don't give even chance. You don't give guys even a chance to chat. They're on the attack already.
Well, but do me a favor. Try to speak clearly into the phones. I don't know if it's your connection, but I'm having trouble, so that means I'm sure everyone else is having trouble as well.
The sufferers are getting impatient. They want the news. I don't think they want gossip.
Yeah. Well, you want gossip? I can give you guys some news. You want some news?
Yeah, plenty of news. I mean, we have plenty of news. First of all, I want to get to Allergan. They said they'll be making an announcement by August on their phase 2. Exactly what's going on, what percentages of hair is growing, what compounds they use, what percentage, of monoparts they're using. What happens right after that? They're going right to phase 3 for immediate FDA approval, which will be fast-tracked. But in the interim, as we all know, these so-called physicians will be making up their own, formulations as a monoparts, as happened with minoxidil years ago.
Absolutely.
Now, number 2, Falcon announced that they finished a phase 2 on a particular item where they're wounding the scalp and using something called hydrogel. And it got hair growth of 10% within 6 months by using very, very weak solution.
Okay, you're going to have to repeat. You're going to have to repeat that for all of for our English-speaking audience, Joe.
Excuse me?
You're going to have to repeat that for our English-speaking audience.
Well, you're familiar with Falcon.
Yes, I am.
We're familiar with Falcon. Is that correct?
Yes.
They've announced this week they've completed phase 2 studies in one of their protocols. They've been performing dermabrasion on the scalp and been putting a solution of hydrogel on the scalp. Within 6 months of use, they've achieved 10% regrowth with actual neogenesis, which in layman's terms means the creation of new hair follicles, which to me is very, very, very exciting.
It's extremely exciting, and it's interesting that they kind of branded it as hydrogel because, to my knowledge, your favorite guy, Dr. Gary Hitzig, created something called hydrogel out of the A-cell product. At least from what I understand, from what he told me, that was something that he coined and maybe patented. I'm not sure if that's the case.
I'm not positive about that. That I can't comment on. Maybe we should interview. You should have your staff interview Dr. Gary Hitzig.
Well, I'd like to get Katsuralis on the program, but that guy is just like incognito, man. You cannot. I mean, he'll talk to you. He'll talk to you by phone, but he does not want to go on unless you are ABC News, and it's only for like a brief interview. He doesn't want to be, from what I understand, on a live broadcast. And that's been a little frustrating because usually we can get just about anybody in the hair world. Speaking of that, everyone's asking me, we want the Histogen interview now. When do we want it? We want it now. Well, I actually interviewed Dr. Craig Zeiring early yesterday morning. On a Saturday morning, he was kind enough to do an interview with me, and I have it in the can. We will be able to put it up probably tomorrow. I can tell you this, that I found it to be exciting news, but there are plenty of naysayers out there that are going to be like, oh, great, it's not coming out next year. This isn't happening. That's not happening. All I can tell you is, according to Dr. Zeiring, he has seen some really impressive clinical results, not just like macro photos, not microscopic photos where, you put a little tattoo and you see a couple of hairs. Real results that make an appreciable difference in people's appearances. This is what he's told me. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Is that the topical version that they're testing, or is that the injectable version? Or you can't comment on that.
Say that again?
Was that a topical version that they're testing, or the injectable version of the HSC?
It was the injectable version.
Right. Of course, my sources told me that Dr. Zarian will soon be testing a topical version in the United States. I don't know if you heard about that.
Well, I'm luckily I have access to Dr. Zeiring, and we had a long conversation yesterday on the air and off the air, and there's a lot of exciting things happening. So I think what's most exciting about what Histogen is doing is that it's something that can be done across the board. It's not something that needs your own cells to be multiplied, sent out to a lab, reproduced, sent back. So in general, if this works as they claim, it should be significantly less expensive than the alternatives that are going to be coming out. So I think, for all the guys out there that are hyper concerned about the cost, it's going to be within most people's budgets. At least that's what Dr. Zeiring thinks at this point, for various reasons, one that I just mentioned. So wait till the interview comes out. I think you guys are going to be very excited about it. Listen, and it's important that there's only so much information that he can provide, but he felt it was a good time because he has seen some significant results to provide something to you guys. So not all of your questions are going to be answered, but a lot of them will be.
Well, let me ask you one brief question, then I have one more announcement to make, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Did you question him as to whether or not it will work in scar tissue? A lot of sufferers want to know that in a transplanted area. He already said in prior shows it will. Did you mention that to him at all?
Well, and definitely in having a hair transplant, will not hinder the technology in any way, shape, or form. And it may be possible, from what I understand, to grow some hair in scarred areas. But I mean, let's put it this way. You have to be so screwed up. You have to have so many scars on your scalp that, where hair can't cover those scars for something like this not to work. And in those cases, you could always go in there with either the Artist System FUE or just, straight FUE and, break up those scars with transplanted hairs. So really, this may not turn Norwood 7s into Norwood 1s overnight, but from what I understand, this is going to be a significant, I hate to say significant breakthrough because I don't want to give people false hopes, but that's basically what I think that it's going to be and what it is right now. I think it's going to make a lot of people, it's going to change a lot of lives and make life easier for a lot of people. However, everyone on the forums, it's like if it's not Norwood 7 to Norwood 1, it doesn't mean shit. That's how this is the mentality of these people. And that's unfortunate.
Norwood 7 to Norwood 3 sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds great. And if you want to go in there and have some, a few thousand grafts placed via either FUE, or if you're interested in, traditional strip method, and then, go in with FUE into the strip scar, that's a possibility. I think there's going to be so many more options for people to maybe not have a completely full head of hair that they had before they started to lose their hair, but they won't have to walk around looking like the balding guy.
With a bandage and a cap?
With a bandage and a cap. But you don't look like the balding guy because you can't see what's going on there, dude.
Well, you can't. That's the idea. That's part of my style. You can't see me. And I also, I have one more thing to say. One member of the GFQ staff asked me to examine him, and it was not a very good prognosis. I was absolutely, stunned. I wonder why doctors say I look good compared to what they've seen. I mean, I guess.
Well, you do look good.
You mean now, Spencer? I might get that realization.
You do look good compared to a lot of the guys that have been victims of old school hair transplants, and you are very lucky, at least according to Dr. Feller, according to Dr. Bernstein. The guys that I've spoken with who've seen you, you're not that bad off. You're definitely repairable, but you're never going to get the full head of hair that you want with current state-of-the-art hair transplantation. That's the thing. So, you can walk around looking like you're not scarred and like you're just a normal guy with, thinning hair, but, you're not going to have the hair that you want. So, I mean, I guess it's pointless for you.
Well, at this point in the time, but as you know, as soon as it suddenly comes, I'm volunteering myself to Dr. Zeiring or whomever. And I'm imploring you just to make that call if you can.
Well, I told you that I would, and I know that Dr. Zeiring listens to Dr. Zeiring.
But he's known you for 14 years, and I have to say that.
Well, Dr. Zeiring listens to the broadcast. He watches the show when he can as well, and he's very aware of you, Joe, and everything that we've been trying to do for you over the years. So I am sure that once he's convinced that he can help you, then he will definitely help you. You don't have to worry about that.
Right. I'm going to make just some quick points. I think possibly Histogen can, use their topical as a cosmetic and have it a mark within 6 months to a year if they want. Mark it as a cosmetic. That. They can do whatever they want if they has no say then.
Yeah, the only issue is if they market it as a cosmetic, it kind of loses a little credibility for the incredible science that it really is. So I would say that it's probably better for their bottom line. And that's what it is. It's a business, even though these are real scientists who, are kind of, they're involved in this race and they want this to work from a scientific standpoint. It's also a business. So I think it would probably be a bad move for them to just put it out as a cosmetic treatment as opposed to something that they could actually claim grows hair.
Right. Well, I can't make any further comments until I dissect your interview tomorrow. There's one final quick point we should be excited about, that Dr. Cole is supposed to be collaborating with Dr. What's his name? Dr. What's his name? The elusive Dr. Go.
He's not collaborating with Dr. Go.
Cole is claiming up to 60% donor regeneration using A-cell with PRP, and something he incorporates called ATP, which I'm not sure what it even means. I had no information on that.
Well,
have you heard about it?
I have, and it's funny because Dr. Cole's an interesting cat. He'll write one thing online, then he'll kind of backtrack, and then he'll talk about the true history of what we do. My involvement with FUE, and then he'll kind of say that I'm not interested in what he's doing with A-cell, which is certainly not true. These physicians come to me and provide me with what they're doing for the most part. And, when the time is right, we will do an interview. If we start to see, some patients coming through who have had some results, if we have a lot of inquiries about, a particular protocol. To my knowledge, Dr. Cole is not collaborating with Dr. Go. I actually spoke with Dr. Go 2 weeks ago at length. And Dr. Go is going to be providing us with another in-depth interview. It's important that everyone knows, and they can write about this on the message forum if they want, at least according to Dr. Go, one of the main reasons why, one reason why, I'm not going to say main reason, but one important reason why his protocol isn't necessarily being taught yet in the United States. It's not just because there are doctors out there who are uninterested in paying $50,000. That's not the case. Some of what's being used in his vehicle currently cannot be used legally in the United States. And that's something that no one on that other side or no one who's talking about Dr. Go, has any idea about. They somehow think that either Spencer Kobren or doctors in the hair loss industry do not want to see this technology become mainstream, if in fact it works the way Dr. Go claims it does. That is not the case at all. And I will be working with Dr. Go, and Dr. Go and I will be talking about this during the interview to try to fast track this, to try to get this out to physicians, at the very least to learn the protocol. And we will be working, and again, this is according to our conversation. Things can change. He may change his mind at some point. But according to our last conversation, working to find doctors that he might be able to train, and not necessarily in the U.S., because that might be a difficult problem. So, that's something that all you guys have to kind of think about and realize that it's not that anybody wants to hold this technology back if it works. There are a lot of limitations on how it can be put out there, at least here in the United States. And the fact that, Dr. Go is very selective in who he wants to train. And that's what he told me. So it's not like whoever puts down that $50,000 is going to be trained. That's not the case. So Joe, that's a little inside information for you and for the thousands of people who are listening to this broadcast about what's happening with HST.
Yeah, but usually actually for this final question, why does the FDA have any authority over this? There's no drugs involved. This is a surgical procedure. I mean, these doctors in the United States.
That's not true. There's
nothing.
You're incorrect. It's beyond the surgical procedure. It's not just the surgical procedure. What makes, at least according to Dr. Go, what makes his procedure work the way that it does has to do with his partially because of the holding vehicle for the grafts. So that's a main issue. And again, this is as described to me by Dr. Go. We'll be getting more specific information from Dr. Go himself when he has the time to do the interview. I am still waiting for him to get back to me. I don't want to be too, pushy. He's been really busy and traveling. But we had an hour-long conversation talking about the politics of the industry, the craziness of what's happening online, and that he's something that he's very aware of. And, he wants to put it out there himself. And this is what he said, that we are working together, in a sense, trying to get whatever we can out to the public, and that it takes time. I have no interest in blocking HST from coming to the United States. But there are issues that those 4 people in the message forum who are, posting about HST have no idea about. And this is straight from Dr. Go's mouth. So hopefully we can get that interview up, I don't know, maybe in a week or two. He also wants to provide us with some written information about what's going on. And we put up a Dr. Go HST section on the Bald Truth just so we can provide you with really legitimate information, real information about what's happening, not just all the hearsay that's happening on the internet.
But it's funny. I mean, these people are so ignorant on the internet because don't you think the average doctor would love to be able to perform 30,000 grafts on a Norwood 6? I mean, they'd love to make all that money. I mean, it's obvious. They want this to happen.
Of course they want this to happen. If it's working the way Go is claiming that it works, I want it to happen as well. And that's why, I've been talking to Dr. Go on and off for a long time since our last interview. There has been contact between us. People, I just don't like to go out there when I see all this craziness going online. I'm not going to go out there or have somebody from my staff go out there and defend what we're doing. I find it interesting that people, they take it upon themselves to post complete nonsense, something, stuff that they really know nothing about. However, that's the way the world works. And if Dr. Go's treatment, if his protocol is working the way that he claims it's working, then I give you all my word that I will do my best, just like I did with FUE, to bring it to market. John Cole wrote on another site the basic history, which is quasi-accurate what he wrote, of how FUE really came out here. I don't talk about that. But the truth is there wasn't a doctor in the U.S. who was interested in even trying FUE. They thought it was all bullshit. And I really advocated for it. And I wanted to make sure that, at the very least, some of the top docs took a serious look, even though Dr. Woods was unwilling at the time to share his information, to expose, or to show people the tools that he was using, because it was all proprietary. He wanted people to pay for that. But this is medicine, How do you do something like that? So sadly, a lot of guys had to take it upon themselves to kind of, reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And a lot of people, in my view, were harmed because of that. And I think the same thing may happen with HST to some degree. I think Dr. Go, if everything that he's telling me is correct, I think Dr. Go kind of has a better, or I should say more appropriate way of training people. And I think that, the amount of money is reasonable if in fact he's able to make that happen the way in which he says that he can. So I know that I'm kind of speaking in circles, but there's only so much that I can say. But I will tell you that if this works, we'll do our best to make sure that more doctors know about it. And maybe it can only be performed in certain parts of Europe, or, maybe in Asia. People may have to travel. If that's the case, then they will, and I'm fine with that.
Well, I'm going to have to, carefully dissect your interview. I'll always say, I want to take, I'm sure your switchboard is lit up. The bottom line is the next thing we have coming within a very short period of time is the Allergan product. That's my honest assessment, my lay opinion. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, we know it's coming out. So it's not even just, your expert opinion. We see the writing on the wall. They're telling us. So that's exciting. I'm excited about Histogen, and I don't think you guys. Replacel is still in the race, and of course Adirant, and what's happening with Folica. Everything is moving forward. I personally don't project anything. It's hard for me to say or predict that anything is going to be, except for Allergan's product, a viable option for anybody until maybe 2015, 2016. But again, I don't mean to disappoint anybody, but I'm just trying to put the reality out there. As far as what Go is doing, we'll find out soon enough how effective it is. And I'm all for it. So there you go. Phone number, 718-717-2200. Andrew, do we have any other callers?
Yes, we got I'm not too sure who it is. I think it's George on line 2.
All right, let's take him.
He's up.
Hey, George, what's happening, bro? Hello? Hello?
I'm on the air.
He might have fallen asleep.
Maybe George is at Lowe's.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's Alabama, so I was guessing it's him. He's been on hold for 18 minutes.
Oh, all right. Well, so there's no one there now.
Yeah, I think he fell asleep.
I'll tell you what, guys. Why don't you hold on? I'm going to take a break. I'll give out the phone number again. We have, sadly, the phone system's still screwed up, so we're taking Skype calls. But luckily, Andrew Zarian, the guy that has been so kind to syndicate this program through the GFQ network, is working hard on a Sunday night taking our calls through Skype. So the phone number is 718-717-2200. 718-717-2200. I'm Spencer Kobren. You are listening to and watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. We have a Skype phone number tonight, which is 718-717-2200. That's 718-717-2200. You can also Skype us through GFQ Hotline or at GFQ Hotline, whatever you young guys say. If you're just tuning in, this is the Hair Loss Show, self-help radio for guys, and sadly for girls who get it. 2/3 of you by the age of 35 suffer with some degree of hair loss. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. That's the way that it is. And this is a program that's been on the air for 14 years. And the reason we can stay on the air for so long is because, look, 200,000 of you wake up every day realizing for the first time that you're losing your hair. And, you know, there are charlatans, frauds, scam artists out there who are trying to sell you a bunch of bullshit. It's happening every single day. I deal with these people all the time. Dealing with one particular person right now who I'm not going to mention his name, who is probably one of the biggest frauds in the hair loss industry. And this guy's out there, you know, defaming people online. And, you know, I mean, he's got all kinds of crap happening with him. And, you know, sadly, it is a situation where you never know who you're dealing with once you walk through somebody's door in the hair loss industry. And we all, you know, we all want to have hope. We all want to have hope. You know, I was dealing with somebody else recently. I really don't talk about it much on the air, but it was actually a hair transplant surgeon who was online defaming me, defaming his colleagues, defaming his patients, taking out, you know, going on blogs and on message forums anonymously, saying all kinds of crazy shit about, you know, he said about his one colleague here in Los Angeles that he committed grand theft auto or grand theft, maybe not grand theft auto. And, you know, this poor doctor's reputation, he's a good doctor, his reputation was ruined online for a while. And, you know, he said some crazy things about me. You know, I'm very lucky that, you know, I don't sell anything to the public, you know, and whatever this person said was obviously just the rants of a lunatic. But because it was happening not only to me, but to others in the hair loss industry and to his own patients, this doctor actually divulged the name of a patient who complained on the message forums about him and divulged the name, his place of business and his name. And in my view, at least in the view of most professionals in the field, violating HIPAA laws. So I chose to take the guy to court. And we recently won a pretty groundbreaking online defamation judgment here in California. And I'll be writing about it soon. But I just want to let you guys know is you never know who you're dealing with. If you think you have a relationship with someone in the hair loss industry, you know, really learn about them. Do your due diligence. Speak to other patients who or other people who've used these services, not just the happy people, and find out, you know, whatever you can about these people. Because sadly, you know, and this other guy that I was talking about, they entrust people, consumers entrust their lives, their personal information, and you never know who you're dealing with. You never know if that shit's going to pop up online sometime, especially if you complained about them publicly. So just be careful out there. And I'm going to put some information about this lawsuit, and it was a pretty substantial financial judgment, which is great. But more importantly, it was the moral victory that, you know, most people don't have the means or the wherewithal to take something like this to court. I decided to step up and do it, not just for me, but for everyone else who is suffering out there because of this hair transplant surgeon. So that information will be out there shortly. Phone number 718-717-2200. I just went on a crazy rant. Let's pot up. I don't know if Joe's still on the line or if it's Andrew. I don't know who's over there. I have no control of the phones.
Got everybody. I'm here and Joe's here.
Okay. So what's going on with you? I know you said that you had an interesting conversation about hair loss this week.
Yeah, you know, it seems like I've become the East Coast correspondent to the Bald Truth.
Well, that's a good thing, I think.
I run into a bunch of people here that are fans of the show, and I was sitting at the bar on Saturday, and I was with Jess. We went to press, we went to the bar, we were drinking, and someone I know came by, and he's like, hey, listen, I really love the Bald Truth. And we went into this whole conversation about his hair, and, you know, he's really screwed up from this. He's just realizing it now. He was in a long-term relationship, and he never realized that hair loss was an issue for him until now that he's on the dating scene.
Yeah.
And, you know, I asked him, well, how much does it affect you? And at first he was like, well, it doesn't really affect me. And by the end of the conversation, he pretty much opened up and said it knocks his confidence down because he doesn't have the hair that he once had.
Right.
So we started talking, and he goes, what can I take? And I told him all about minoxidil. I told him all about, finasteride.
But I mean, he's a fan. He's a fan of the show. He watches the show. He knows what we do. He should call us.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't, because he's pretty open about this stuff. So maybe he'll call in one of these days.
But there's no doubt. I don't care who you are. I don't care how confident you are. For most people, it will screw with your confidence. And frankly, in this world, I mean, in every world, or in every world. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, even in my time before the internet, when you go up, you have to actually meet people in person. It's hard enough doing that. And, sometimes when you meet somebody in person, they might give you an opportunity, even if you are dealing with hair loss, at least give you the opportunity to talk to them. They can learn something about you, and maybe eventually they look past the hair loss if it's something they're concerned about, or if they're not quite as physically attractive to you as the person would be if the person had hair. But in the online dating world,
has a great personality, Spence. Great personality. I mean, really fun guy. But I know from one situation, he went on a date with somebody, and I know that person he went on a date with, and she couldn't look past the hair loss.
Yeah. And, I mean, is it the way he grooms it? Is it possible that maybe if he shaved it, it would be cooler?
I don't know. I think that's a big step for a lot of people. When or if I start dealing with hair loss on that level, I don't know if I would ever be able to shave my head.
What about a good piece?
You're convinced that I would just slap a rug on there and just call it a day.
You would. You may shave your head, but you'd cover it with a rug. And then we say a rug. There's really great hair systems out there. It's really sad that, and it's just like plugs. People call hair transplants plugs because that's that's what we envision, or that's what society envisions. And in a way that's a good thing for those who have had great hair transplants, because no one suspects them having a hair transplant, and also for those guys who are wearing good pieces. But a guy could really wear a great hair piece if he's willing to say, okay, to 99.9% of the people, I'm going to look great. I have to tell my significant other, or if I go on a date, eventually I'm going to have to tell this person that I'm wearing a hair piece. If they can deal with that, then they can go out in life and look fantastic if they know what to do and how to purchase one and how to finesse it. But most people don't have to.
Also, Spence, that a lot of people are now realistic about their hair pieces.
That's true.
They'll be in their 50s and 60s, and they'll put on a hair piece that a 20-year-old can't even wear.
That's right. It's not about getting your Norwood one hairline back. It's about getting more hair in your head and making it look age appropriate. And I always tell people who wear hair pieces, you got to show skin. Less is more. If you're showing a significant amount of scalp, meaning that, say, you spike the hair up and you can kind of see through it a little bit, it throws the eye off. No one thinks anyone's wearing a hairpiece that looks like that, because everyone considers a hairpiece this full, thick wig. And there are guys who are, I always talk about my friend Kent Emmons, who was the CEO of National Lampoon Radio, and he's been doing a lot of things in entertainment for a long time. He contacted me. He was going to start doing some television. He wanted to get a hair transplant, but he was going on the air in 6 months. I'm like, dude, first of all, it's only going to start growing in 4 months. You're not going to have any hair in your head, and it's really a big step. Let's get you into a hairpiece. He was very resistant when I told him where to order it and who to order it through, and he got this thing in a box, and he was just so pissed at me when he took this thing out of the box, because it's like 6 or 8 inches of hair on this base, and it looks ridiculous. It looks like what were those things from Star Trek? I don't know. I forgot what they're called. But I mean, it's ridiculous looking. I said, listen, just go to the place, get it cut in. I'm telling you, it's going to look great. He lived in this thing for 3 years. He loved it, and he was so open about it. He would just tell people when they asked, well, dude, you look so different. What's going on? You got more hair. He was like, it's a piece. And because it looks so good, no one even said anything. They're just like, wow, you look great. And he ended up getting a hair transplant after a while because he wanted the hair growing out of his head. But it is possible to look 100% natural with a hairpiece. You just have to be open about it. It's something you can't hide. And I think if you don't hide it and you let people know, it's kind of like, all right, big deal. He decided to do something for himself to make himself look better. It's only the guy with the bad piece that people make fun of.
Yeah, and I think the guy that I'm talking about, he's a 34-year-old guy. He's a good-looking guy too. Has a good job, great personality, and the hair issue is something that is just starting to come up for him. So I went into the whole process. I told him about hair pieces and what he could do. I told him who to stay away from, and then I started talking about transplants with him. And I'm sitting at the bar and I'm inspecting his head.
Yeah.
And I've become like this expert on this. And I'm looking, I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have great donor area, which I think you know who we're talking about.
I do. I don't want to mention his, I don't want to embarrass him, but yeah.
No, I don't.
But you're right. You said he's actually a very good looking guy. He's got like dimples, good eyebrows. He's got a good face, good smile. I actually think he can shave his head, and he could, he may have to buff up a little bit if he does that, but he can get away with it, and he can live his life.
Yeah, I mean, he really could do something, but so I went through the process. He goes, "How much would it cost?" And I told him, I'm like, well, depending on where you go and what you do, the more you pay. Some people are worth it. You can't go. And I told him about how some people were doing sanitation workers were doing procedures on the weekend. So I went through this whole thing. I told him about Chauncey's head and how his head is ruined. It's all butchered up. And the expectation on what he has, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people go into this thinking, okay, I'm going to go get a transplant. They're going to take hair magically without scarring me.
Right.
And put it on the top of my head, and I'll have a full head of hair within a couple of months. And I explained to him, like, no, this is a 3-4 year process you're going to have to go through. It's going to be procedure after procedure.
For a guy like him, yes. It's going to take,
for a guy like
it's going to take years, yeah. But, I'm sure he kind of looks at me and he asks you, because we met a couple of times. He probably says, like, "What is Kobren doing?" He's got to ask you that. He's got to ask what's going on.
Doing as far as what?
As
monetizing?
The fact that I still have hair in my head.
No, he did. He goes, "Well, does he wear a piece?" And I had to go through the whole thing. I'm like, no, he went on medication really early, and it slowed down the hair loss to an extent where he's able to maintain it. It's almost, it's really not falling out at the rate that it would have.
Right.
And then he started, when I told him that, he really felt bad, because he goes, oh my God, I could have stopped this. I could have done something. I was in denial, and I could have stopped the hair loss from happening. And, I was honest with him. I didn't sugarcoat. I'm like, well, you don't know if it's going to work for you. It could have potentially stopped some of it, but the way that his hair, it's diffused. It's
he's a young sufferer. I mean, it seems unlikely that it's just happened overnight. I mean, he must have started at a pretty young age, because he's significantly bald. I mean, I would say he's a Norwood 6 with a little bit of diffuse donor, and he still has some hair on the top. But when I first met him, he kind of combed it over a little bit. But I will tell you, and maybe he's watching the show. He's a good-looking dude. I don't know what he'd look like with hair. He must have looked, even better, because it's obviously affecting him. But he can get away with it if he, decides to kind of like, work with it somehow. Like, you could shave it really close. He might need, to do a little tanning and some, lifting a little bit. Maybe grow like, a goatee, something, because he's got the eyebrows and the facial structure, I think, to have no problem with women, even with a bald head.
So let me ask you this, Mets. If he were to get a procedure done, there would, and this is what I was trying to tell him, there would be no way you're ever going to have a head full of hair.
I would say that at his stage in life and his stage of hair loss, that I would never recommend him having a procedure. I think that it would be difficult for him to live with that, because he may have like a half a head of hair. He may be able to build a nice hairline, decent mid-anterior scalp, and just have to comb it back and always have the bald spot. And, it kind of limits his options. He won't be able to shave his head. Even if he gets FUE, I don't care what you guys think out there, it's very difficult to shave your head to the bone, even with the best FUE, especially if you want to get a little sun. So if I were him, the only choices would be to, at this point, to shave his head or clip it down really low, like to number 1 or number 2, or consider, and I have to look at his sides and how far his temporal points are, consider wearing a piece. And I would hook him up with anything that he wants. There's some guys in the chat asking what's the best brand of pieces. There's a couple of companies out there that I think are doing really good work online, that are providing some really good hair systems that are pretty inexpensive. The number one company that I think people should look at is coolpiece.com. Don't know why they don't update their website. Don't know why they have the type of website that they have. But all of the people that use their product, that use their service, say it's fast and the product is great. And if there's any problems, the return policy is easy. They'll switch it out for you. And they do it's a really great online service. I think you can get a piece for like, I don't know, $300. But I'm talking about a high quality lace hair system, as good as anything you're going to pay $6,000 or $7,000 for. And for that price, if you have a little bit of money, if you're making decent money, you can kind of use it as use them like disposable contact lenses. You can get a new one every 3 months, and it could always look fresh. And I think that's a good option. There's another company called Hair Direct, which I think does a really good job. They have a great website with great videos and tutorials and all kinds of stuff. They're a little more expensive, and I think the waiting time is probably more for the pieces because they do such volume. But I've heard good things about hairdirect.com also. There's another company called Top Lace, which seems to do a pretty good business as well. There seems to be some happy people there. But I would say, from my experience, coolpiece.com, from the experience, from everybody that's been contacting me over the years, they're good. I mean, they're nice. I think the guy's name is Jeffrey. He's a nice guy, and he will, he'll treat you right. But it's a big step. It's a big step. A lot of guys will end up wanting to go to like a salon first and pay like $5,000-$6,000, and because they're kind of having their hands held. But,
well, I think also a lot of people go into those places not knowing what exactly they're getting.
Well, they don't know what they're getting. When you're looking at a company like the Hair Club, and in my experience, my personal experience with the Hair Club, I went there many, many years ago when I was just going through the initial throes of hair loss. And it took me forever to get out of them exactly what they were trying to sell me. They were claiming they were going to add the strand-by-strand matrix to my existing hair, and then as I continued to bald, no one would know the difference. I kept saying, how do you do that? Tell me, is there a video of the process? Is there some way that I can see what's going on? Then they had somebody who had it done, quote-unquote, walk into the room, and it looked like a crazy Elvis wig to me. I never forget this guy. He sat down and said, yeah, I was in the same boat as you. And I'm looking at his head. I'm like, there's no fucking way you're wearing a wig. And then finally they admitted that it was hair attached to a very fine mesh base. And I asked him, I said, how did you guys expect to get this on my head? I have a full head of hair, basically. They said, well, we would integrate your hair into this hair. And I said, is there a system that I can see to see how big the holes are in the base? And they wouldn't show me anything. So luckily I just walked out, and I never went back. But
the odds are they're just going to shave your head and slap that thing on.
Well, that's exactly what would have happened. What's funny though? I went there probably like in the late 80s. Maybe early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. My book was published in 1998. These guys were soliciting me for years. And I never forget, it was like 1999. My book was already published. It had just become a bestseller. Guy calls me up on the phone, has my name and all that stuff, and he's saying, have I decided to do anything about my hair loss? You came in 19 whatever, and we're just following up with you. And I'm like, are you guys familiar with The Bald Truth? And he's like, yeah, you know what? That guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, I'm the author. You're calling me. I'm the guy that wrote the book. And he was pretty embarrassed, and it actually was a very funny situation that I talked about on WOR Radio, my first interview. But this is the way these companies are. It's all about sales. So, I think your friend is lucky. I know who he is, that he has us. But I think it might be too late for him to do anything, at least at this point, surgically, where he's going to have his own hair.
Well, you look at the situation, and this is a smart guy. He's not a very intelligent guy. He has a job that requires high level thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, this is this and this, and how here are your options. Here are situations that you do not want to go down. There's no magic pill. There's nothing currently. And then I told him a little bit about Replicel and what they're planning on doing, and to kind of give him hope. I said, within the next decade, the hope is that there will be an answer.
I think by the time he's in his 40s, he's going to have an answer. I mean, he's going to be able to have hair on his head, and a significant amount of hair also. So it's good that he's young. He's only 34 years old. Yeah. But I think it's gonna be, his life is gonna be great if, once he finds the woman who loves him for him with his hair loss, and he continues on with his career, and he will find that woman, and then during his life, he's going to be able to regain his hair. That's going to be
up with her, go out and go crazy. I mean, that's just how it will happen.
Possibly, but or he could just be living life plus.
But here's the fascinating part. So I told him all of this, and then he came to me. He goes, I was reading about this plant in Brazil, and it's some sort of elixir, and you put it on your head, and they say within the first 3 months you'll see like 50% hair growth in that area, and I asked him, did you pay for this? Did you buy it? He goes, yeah, I'm going to admit I bought it. I'm like, did you get it yet? He goes, no, I haven't got it yet. I told him, and I gave this situation. If a guy had the cure for cancer, and I know, Joe brings this comparison up. I said, if a guy had the cure for cancer, that guy would be an automatic billionaire.
Right.
Why don't you think the same thing would happen for the cure for hair loss? If some magic plant in Brazil was the answer to hair loss, you don't think that a company like Merck or all these companies would grab a hold of this, market it, and sell it as soon as they can?
Or you forget about Merck. You don't think this guy would contact me and say, hey, listen, I got this thing. It really works. Let's make a fortune. Because I can get it out to the masses faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no, but honestly, and I always say that that's the thing that I said at the beginning of the broadcast. If someone has the cure for hair loss, no matter what it is, if it's a nutraceutical or some sort of nutritional supplement, they would be on the cover of Time magazine. It would be the biggest news that we've ever seen.
Yeah, it'd be a huge breakthrough in modern medicine.
Guys would be running through the streets. It would be insanity ensuing.
But here's also the other thing. And I told him, I'm like, he's like, so it won't work. I'm like, it's not that it might not work. I'm like, I don't know what's inside of it, but generally what a lot of these places do, like let's say Andrew Zarian's hair elixir.
Right.
I would put a bunch of berries and fruits and tree bark and all these herbs, possibly a couple vitamins in there. And then all the way on the bottom, it'll say, 5 milligram minoxidil.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, there are plenty of companies out there.
2%, 2%, 2%,
2 milligram. 2% minoxidil, 5%. A lot of companies are doing that. They've been doing that for years. They were, Scalp Med was a big one. Avicor was a big one. Avicor now has their own proprietary minoxidil brand, which is on the up and up. But for years, they weren't telling people that the main ingredient was minoxidil. I actually worked with the National Advertising Division of the Better Business Bureau early on in my career to force Avicor to change their verbiage in their packaging and to let the world know that there was minoxidil in their product. And the main reason wasn't just because, in my view, and in the view of the National Advertising Division of the Better Business Bureau, they were, in a sense, allegedly committing consumer fraud and deceptive business practices, but people are allergic to the drug, and also people have heart conditions who were going the all-natural route to avoid taking this medication, and they could potentially be harmed. And there were some cases, allegedly, where people were harmed by these types of products. That's why I got involved, and I remember there was a big article on Avicor that I was in, and this is early on in my career, on Men's Health, and it was a huge breakthrough, not breakthrough, but it was a huge step towards really, I guess, regulating the hair loss industry, because nothing like that was ever put out there before.
Well, and it's like the early 20th century with all this hocus pocus, snake oil.
Yeah, but that hasn't changed. But it hasn't changed. It's the same shit. Just go online and look up hair loss and see what you find. Look up hair loss treatments. Now, you're going to find the American Hair Loss Association is going to be one of the top sites when you look up hair loss treatments, which is great. The problem is no one wants to read anything. No one wants to go, oh, you know what, this is an organization. Maybe they can guide me. They want to find their cure online. They want a bottle sent to their house ASAP, so they can take it and stop their hair loss.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Spencer. I don't think it's the fact that they're not reading it. I think you would imagine that there would be such with an organization like the American Hair Loss Association and what you're putting out with the Bald Truth, the answers are there. You know, it's a pretty black and white answer.
Right.
There's no in between on this might work and it might
Yeah, but
not.
people don't want to know.
Either-
They don't want to hear that shit. They don't want to hear it. They're like, you know what? Maybe Kobren's wrong. Maybe the American Hair Loss Association is wrong. Maybe all the scientists and doctors who are in this industry are wrong. Maybe it's the guy that's living in a basement in Queens. Maybe he found the cure, and I'm going to give it a shot.
Maybe I did. Listen, maybe you know. No,
And Mike Phillips is going. Mike Phillips is going after the podcasting consultants.
I think you should.
I love that guy, Mike. I want to give you a big shout out, dude. This guy's great. I love this guy. Go ahead.
No, Mike Phillips is excellent. No, the issue is that a lot of people, when this situation happens, and I panic. We'll talk about my personal experience with this because I went to a doctor, and that doctor could have sold me any kind of treatment in some jar for $49.95 a month.
And apparently he almost did until you told him that we were boys.
Yeah. They got a little weird. But I think the problem is that it's much like, you look at like Andy Kaufman, for example. This guy came down with lung cancer. He never smoked a cigarette in his life. Very intelligent guy, but he was going to Mexico and he was going to, Argentina for these crazy medicine treatments that did not work. They were taking a chicken and putting the blood on him. And you do this because you're in this panic and you really are hoping that the situation changes.
Now, did he choose not to have conventional therapy for cancer, like chemotherapy, or was this after everything else was not working?
I think it was very aggressive. I think the situation was very aggressive. And I think at first, look at Steve Jobs. He was another brilliant guy. And, he would still be alive if he had gotten treatment for his cancer. But initially he went to somewhere in Sweden for some sort of homeopathic treatment that did not work, and it aggravated and it accelerated his cancer in his body.
Yeah, that's
and
horrible,
a lot of people, and Steve Jobs is a very intelligent guy. So why is a guy like that saying, no, this is the cure? Because you kind of fall into this weird place in your life where you're hopeful that there might be something.
Dude,
and I think the same goes for hair loss.
I can sell anything to anybody in the hair loss world. If I chose to say, you know what, I found an effective treatment. Now, it's not mainstream. It sounds a little weird, but, if you drink, 12 beers and this and that, whatever crazy nonsense that I decide to make up, there will be a pretty large segment of the hair loss community that would say, I'm going to give this a shot.
What's amazing that people are still questioning your integrity.
Well, the people that are really questioning my integrity, the guys that I've exposed over the years. So they put that shit out there on the internet. And actually, this hair transplant doctor is one of the main culprits, and I'll be able to talk about that now that we won this pretty significant judgment. But, there are people that dislike what I do because I expose the truth. There was one firm out there. There was a guy that called in the show, this guy, Chris, who, he felt he was decimated by this hair transplant firm. And he contacted me. He has no money. He wanted a refund. I'm like, all right. Actually, I think it went through Joe Tronick initially, or Joe Tillman from Hassan Wong. And Joe told him to contact me. Had him on the program. He gave us his story. It was it was horrible, actually, how these people treated him. I was able to get him a full refund. But these people are now extremely resentful that I contacted them on behalf of a patient who they allegedly harmed and said, listen, I think it's best, at the very least, if you can give this guy his money back because he believes that you really damaged his life. And I think they felt like, who the fuck is this guy telling us what we need to do? And the bottom line is I try to explain it to him that, listen, it's a good business. Not everything, it doesn't, these surgeries don't always work out for people. Why don't you just give him his money back instead of trying to fight him? He's very unhappy. Make the guy happy. It's probably, in the end, it's going to be better for you. And which I think is reasonable advice for any business. Good customer service is number one. If things don't work out, the best thing you can do is try to do your best to make the person happy. When it comes to surgery, that's a little more difficult, but at least give him his refund. They were really, this guy, this woman actually was talking to me on the phone, and she was like, well, how are you getting paid, Kobren? She called me Kobren. Why are you so interested in this person's case? And I said, this person came to me for help. And
I think the issue is, Spencer, that you've been very successful at what you do, but you're successful and you're on the up and up. Even in the industry that I'm in and you're in with me, what we do in internet broadcasting, a lot of these people are only in it for the money, and they do not care about the consumer. They're not there to protect the consumer. They're only there to protect their work.
Well, what bothers me about what we're doing is that it's not even about the consumer for us. It's more about, obviously the small podcaster, the small internet broadcaster. I don't think it's necessary to start something and try to make money from these guys. These are the guys that are, in my view, are the backbone of what is going to be evolving as far as the world of internet broadcasting. I'm not interested in trying to make money off of these guys. These guys will eventually be the guys that are helping to evolve this industry by helping each other, helping us. Just their very commitment to be involved with the organization, I think, is going to be, I think that's incredible. Why should they have to pay for that? But that's not the way these other guys think.
I think that was Joe Spence.
Yeah, what did you?
Yeah,
Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. I had so much, people want to ask me a few things in the chat room. I thought I wasn't potted up. I had so much to add.
Go ahead, speak.
With Andrew's airtime.
No, dude, it's your airtime too, man. And Andrew's just hanging out with us.
Here, Joe.
Well, a lot of stuff where I've been on the BlogTruthTalk.com and on the chat room, have been getting prescriptions for Latisse, and I've been putting it into their minoxidil. And I'm not a physician, but I'm going to have to discourage this. Was Latisse in its present form is ineffective on the scalp. So why are these people wasting $100 to $150 a month on something that will not work?
It's also very expensive.
Right, and these guys but these guys, especially the young guys, they're out there, they're ordering all kinds of shit from crap pharmacies in Europe, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's mind-boggling. I've been doing this for a long time. I was one of these young guys when alt.baldspot, before there were message forums, I was reading these things and I was seeing the same shit. The same products that they're talking about today were being sold back then. And, these kids fall for it. I don't even know what to say anymore. No matter how much they watch this program, no matter how much, they're on Bald Truth Talk, they're still talking about the same shit. You know what's going to happen? They're going to waste their money, they're going to waste their time, and they're going to end up losing their hair anyway. So there's only so much we can do for these guys, Joe.
Latisse is FDA approved by Allergan, but these people, have misinformation. Latisse in the present form will have no effect on hair loss. I'm not saying that what Alex is working on now is a much stronger concentration of monoprost, the active ingredient. We have to make these people in our community aware of this. Do you agree with that, Spencer?
Well, I agree with most of what you say, Joe, except for, when you're talking about cancer and hair loss and all that stuff. But I think that it doesn't make a difference what we say. There are those who believe, I'm giving advice based on, some sort of agenda. There are those who believe that, the doctors that take the time to communicate with people on our forum, they have their own agenda. It's the way that it is. Some people just can't be helped. And there's only so much advice you can give people. They're going to make their own decisions. And I guess part of the beauty of running a message forum and having a message forum is just seeing how, where the flow of information goes and what people are interested in and where they gravitate towards. I see a lot of people gravitating towards the bullshit. One of our biggest threads is on some product that came out of the UK. I'm not even going to name it.
Yes.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's absolutely, I just watch this thing grow into this behemoth of a thread. I mean, hundreds of thousands of views. It's fucking-sane, and it's all about a product that, in my view, is complete bullshit. But I'm not going to cut that conversation off. My staff's not going to cut that conversation off because it's a conversation that people want to have. However, when we do this program every week, I'm hoping that these people come to the show and hear, not just listen, but hear the truth. But a lot of people don't. They refuse to listen. I guess not just hear, but listen. That's what I should have said.
It's a vulnerable state, Spencer. I mean, and the people that are selling these products to these people know that. You know, we were talking about how I went to a doctor, and I sat down, and they told me they almost sold me something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's, and I'm not going to say the doctor's name, obviously, but. And I'm someone that's pretty informed about the hair loss world and the situation with, you know, having the show on the network and working with you. And, you know, I kind of know about hair loss, and I know the situation that people are in. And, you know, it went through my mind, and I said, well, maybe this thing could work.
Of course.
You know, and then they told me about that supplement. I forgot the name.
Saw palmetto.
Yeah.
You know what bothers me about that, and I actually feel a little guilty about this, because I wrote the very first chapter about you know, herbal supplementation, hair loss, you know, with the nutrients or the supplements, saw palmetto, pygium africanum, and stinging nettle. When I wrote this, you have to understand, I started writing the book in 1996. In 1997, there was an article that came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association that kind of was showing proof positive that the herb saw palmetto was actually able to lower dihydrotestosterone in men who were dealing with prostate or benign prostate hyperplasia. And they were claiming that it worked almost as well as Proscar. Now, I was already on Proscar for hair loss. So the theory was, and at least what I extrapolated from this, was that that saw palmetto can possibly help with hair loss. I spoke to a couple of doctors, and because it was a new study, all of them agreed that, you know what, it could work. The study claims that it works almost as well as Proscar for prostate enlargement. There's no reason to think that it's not going to work as well for hair loss. I wrote this chapter, and you remember that, Joe?
Yes, I do. Very good.
I wrote this chapter, and as soon as the book really took off, there were companies who were making their own concoction of saw palmetto, pygium africanum, and stinging nettle, selling it as a hair loss cure. And I just remember one company in particular that actually referenced the Bald Truth. I had to have my lawyer contact that company because they're obviously not allowed to reference the Bald Truth in the way that they did and sell a product. But to make a long story short, I think it kind of set off this, you know, cascade of companies who were kind of hinging on the information that I provided, also supported by doctors at the time, to sell these bogus products. I was approached by...
But there is some sort of truth behind it. I mean, the same goes for the zone diet. You know, there's some truth to changing your diet to stop or somewhat treat hair loss.
Well, I think the fact that I wrote about the zone diet and that I had Barry Sears write a couple of pages for me, and, you know, some other doctors who were involved back then in that type of diet, you know, collaborated with us. I believe that, you know, kind of balancing your hormones through diet is a lot more effective when treating your hair loss than taking saw palmetto or pygium africanum now. And also back then, there was no known evidence of adverse sexual side effects from these herbal supplements. So I didn't even write about it in the first edition of The Bald Truth. Now we're finding out, or I'd say, you know, a few years after the book was published, we're finding out that there are just as many guys, at least anecdotally, that are suffering with adverse sexual side effects from these herbs as those who are suffering from the drug itself. So it doesn't necessarily have more of a safety profile because it's natural. Just because, you know, something is natural doesn't mean it's safe. I mean, these things come from nature's pharmacy, so people really have to be careful. So I do regret writing that chapter. But with that said, there were plenty of people that contacted me over the years that claimed that they had results from these, you know, these herbal products. So I don't know, Joe. I mean, have you ever spoken to anybody? Did you ever try this stuff?
I don't know where he went.
All right, fuck him.
The naturals Spencer?
Yeah.
Years ago, I used to buy from. You ever heard of Life Extension Foundation? Are you familiar with that?
I'm very familiar with the Life Extension Foundation.
Yes, years ago, I used to talk to a guy who's a so-called hair loss expert, and he sold me on saw palmetto. He told me it would block DHT 100%, and I used it for about 2 years.
Well, they say it blocked at the time. You know, you had to get a standardized product, and it blocked DHT practically as well as ProScar. And it seemed to help people with prostate enlargement. So theoretically, it makes sense. But over the years, we just haven't seen that equate to the cessation or the regrowth of hair, cessation of hair loss or the regrowth of hair. So, you know, it is what it is. I guess I shouldn't feel bad about it, but there's a lot of companies that took advantage of that information and sold the product and claimed, you know, because, you know, the FDA doesn't really regulate nutritional supplements, claimed, made all these claims of, you know, of hair growth when in fact there's no clinical data showing that it grows hair. So there you go. Listen, I'm going to take a break, guys.
You offer a new.
What'd you say?
I would be very happy to collaborate with you.
Say that again?
I think that you should author a new book, and I would be very happy to collaborate with you on it. Pro bono, of course.
I appreciate that. You know, speaking of a new book, I actually wrote a third book that was, and that's my big infomercial debacle. I think I talked about this on the air. A company, and I'm not going to say who the company is, they wanted to sell a new book, a different The Bald Truth. You know, I own the rights to my book. And, you know, I'm not currently, you know, working with Simon & Schuster, Pocketbooks, or McGraw-Hill. And I was going to work with this company to self-publish a new book through direct marketing. And initially I thought it was a good idea. I did the infomercial, and as soon as I saw what was happening and the way that it was done, I was like, oh, shit, you know, this is not good. So, I talked about this on the air. I kind of pulled the plug on everything after a while, and it was definitely an experience. So I actually have a relatively new manuscript in the can that just has to be updated. So it's possible that I may end up putting something else out there, but I don't think I'm ever going to work with a mainstream publisher again, especially now that we have so many more options. You know, when you work with a publisher, and, you know, maybe I will for something else at some point, but you usually sign your life away. But it's kind of like a catch-22. You know, if you're not published by a real publisher, you're not respected as an author. And I don't think that should be the case, but that's the way it's been. I think things are changing. I think Andrew and I have to write a book. Listen, we're going to take a break, Joe. 888-659-37...
The book that I have just tell for your new book. Hold on to your hats, guys. The future is almost here.
Maybe that could be like a little ebook
with just Joe's face on it.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. We will be back soon. 888-659. I'm sorry, that's not the number. It's 718-717-2200. 718-717-2200. 2200, or you can call us directly through Skype as well if you're on your computer at GFQ Hotline. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hey, the Red Rocker Sammy Hagar.
And Michael Anthony.
You're listening to the baldest on the planet, Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth. Woo!
Hey, guys. Welcome back. Tonight's phone number, 718-717-2200. Live from Los Angeles, I'm Spencer Kobren, and this is The Bald Truth. Self-help, I can't speak. Self-help radio for guys, and apparently for girls who get it. You know, I apologize for the phone system issue. I actually could have gotten one sent to me, a Comrex system, probably this week. I've been bogged down with a lot of bullshit at work, and I just didn't get it done. I have to get my phone system repaired, and I guess I'm depending on Andrew. I'm like, you know what? I can do Skype with Andrew. Not a big deal. But you know what? It's unfair to you guys who want to call in, and you guys are blocked because we only have 1 or 2 lines with Skype, and a lot of you guys just kind of prefer to use the phone. It's a radio show. I understand that. It's a radio show on the internet. So I'm going to make something happen this week. Hopefully I can make some magic. Next week, we're going to have some really great guests. I was supposed to have the CEO of Headblade on for the last couple of weeks, but I was away, and then, you know, I had to cancel for him for this week, so we didn't have a phone system. You know, for all you guys who are considering making the move of shaving your head, I got to tell you, in my view, that's probably your first option. Do nothing. Fuck this. You're dealing with hair loss. move on, cut your hair short, or even shave your head to the bone, and don't deal with all the lotions and potions and nonsense that we have to deal with, for those of us who are not equipped to deal with hair loss. Like me. I couldn't shave my head. I don't know if I ever can at any point. But, this company has really made a unique product. And I've been a fan of this product for a long time. I've also known the CEO or spoken to him. At the beginning, we kind of started off in this industry around the same time. He has made a tremendous strides, and he deals with a segment of the population that none of us really understand. But I thought it'd be interesting to have him on to talk about his perspective. So we're going to have him on next week. And also, Dr. Glenn Charles is going to be stopping by to talk about the artist's robotic hair transplant system that he now is using in his practice. He's the only physician in his area who is currently using this robotic hair transplant system, which I actually think, I get a lot of shit from this from people who think they're in the know in the message forums. I actually think that this is something that is going to revolutionize follicular unit extraction. And as the system gets better and better, I think it's going to make this type of hair transplant surgery a lot more accessible to the masses. And right now I think the artist system and the company is doing it right. They're only putting this in the hands of truly skilled hair transplant surgeons. So, we'll see. That's next week. Phone number 718-717-2200. Let me pop up the boys. I think Andrew and Joe are probably still on the line, right?
Hey, Spence, I'm still here.
Hey, good. I'm glad you're there, Andrew. You're always there for me. I appreciate that. And so are you, Joe.
Thank everybody for that. I'm very flattered. It makes my miserable existence as a hell of suffer a little bearable. I appreciate it.
What does? What makes your existence more bearable?
Excuse me, Spencer?
What were you saying? What makes your existence more bearable?
The millions of people listening to the show now in the chat room telling me how big fans they are of me, and it helps me get through a miserable day. I'm no longer with the movie theater. I couldn't handle that. So now I'm back in bed.
Now, Norwood is asking me to elaborate on what? What do you want me to elaborate on? I'll do my best to elaborate on it, Norwood. And Norwood, why don't you why don't you call through the Skype line? We'd love to hear you. You've been in the chat room for weeks, and we'd love to hear your voice. So you can call in through 718-717-2200, or elaborate on the robotic system. Well, I can tell you that it appears that this particular system is able to not only cherry pick grafts that are possibly more viable, but it's able to kind of like figure out what the angle and the direction of the hair is, so that once the punch goes in, there seems to be, at least according to those who are using it on a regular basis, less of a transection rate. I actually interviewed Dr. Bob Bernstein, who is probably known as one of the most conservative hair transplant surgeons in the country, and also one of the best in the country. And he now is utilizing the artist in his practice. I have an interview in the can that we have not gotten out there, which, after this Histogen thing, we'll put that out there. But he's very excited about it. And I can tell you this guy would not incorporate this device into his practice if he didn't think that it was helping him to produce a superior result. Remember, he was one of the first guys to really, and he did write the first paper on follicular unit extraction, and actually coined the phrase follicular unit extraction and FUE. So this guy's been doing it for a long time. He believes that this is, and I know there's somebody out there who doesn't like when to use this terminology, but the gold standard as far as FUE. I'm not saying that it is yet, but at least some of the true experts in the field believe that it is. So I think that it's going to at least help to move this technology forward and make it easier for practices to offer follicular unit extraction to their patients. And I think in time, it's going to make things a lot more standardized. So there you go.
This device harvests more donor area, increased donor area, be able to get more donor area? That's the question.
But that's not the point. It's not going to increase the donor area. But if it's able to harvest donor area more safely and more accurately with less transection, then it's improving hair transplantation significantly. So that's just one step towards the Holy Grail. So if we could eventually multiply hairs, or if we can regenerate hairs like Dr. Go is doing, perhaps this device, they can incorporate the type of instrumentation that Dr. Go is using, if in fact what he's doing is working, into a device like this, so there can be a real consistent outcome. I think that could be a game changer.
I think it's a combination of things currently. I mean, in order to keep your hair and to to get a head full of hair, I think there's no one answer. I think it's going to be a combination of treatments.
Are you drinking, dude?
I'm not.
Okay, you should be.
I am drinking.
Okay. How are you feeling, by the way?
That with the fact that you're not a physician, that's your lay opinion.
Well, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, by the way?
Much better.
Are you 100% now?
98%.
Okay. Did you lose weight from your illness?
I did. I lost about 7 pounds.
That's good. So it's I mean, it was worth something at least.
Oh, it was awful, Joe. I got sick afterwards. I don't think Joe knows. After BlogWorld, when he came by, I got really sick. And
did I make you sick, Andrew?
No, you didn't make me sick.
I did have a surgical mask on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were protecting yourself. No, I got very sick and I was in bed for about a week. Vomiting for about a week, so it was miserable. But I'm feeling a lot better. That's why.
Yeah,
I'm
but
here
you were blaming it on the calamari and all. I'm like, I feel fine. I actually felt a little ill on the way back from New York, but it's possible. I understand that you slipped me a Percocet. I wasn't aware of that.
I gave you 2.
Yeah,
and then I got the look from
radio. Well, apparently you shouldn't take 2, and I didn't know that.
We're passing Percocets around at a table.
Apparently, you shouldn't take 2 Percocets while you're drinking, and I had no idea that was the case. I thought
you had a lot of fun.
I thought you were giving me a mint. I'm telling you. So
I'm not surprised, because you gave Coco $120 for a $30 cab ride.
You know what? I thought that he would get the hint. I was offering them extra money to go to a strip club. So maybe he could have, gotten a lap dance when he got over the bridge. I don't know. I was loaded. I felt bad for the guy. You basically texted him minutes before or while he was on the train saying, "Hey, dude, listen, we don't have any room in the car for you. You're gonna have to take the train back." He was ready to party, go out, and it was midnight already. I didn't want him to take the train home.
It's not my problem. He should take the train.
It's not your problem, but, I felt bad for the guy. I like the guy. I don't want anyone I care about having to take the train at midnight back to Queens.
By the way, Spence, I just ordered the microscope hair analyzing computer thing.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I just ordered it. $50. So
Really?
What we'll do, I guess we could do it on the air live.
Well, we are doing a live hair transplant with Dr. Bauman on what, July 11th?
Yeah, July 11th.
Yeah, what's with all the crazy emails going back and forth? I got to tell you guys, if you're watching Dr. Bauman, I mean, we're not splitting the atom here. You know what I mean, Andrew? We don't need so many conference calls and all this stuff. Just send us a decent feed. We'll make it happen.
Apparently, we have a conference call with the video production crew and Bauman's crew.
No, listen. I understand this is the way things work in the business world, and that's why I've never really. I was in the business world for a very short time, and I kind of left at a very early age. Everything. I mean, nothing gets done because there's so much happening. There's so many meetings and so much bureaucracy and so much nonsense when things could just be very straightforward. Okay, dude, this is what you got to do. Get us a decent Skype feed, or if there's another way. I think maybe they want to figure out another way to get us the feed. Was that it?
I don't know. I read halfway through and my ADD kicked in and I gave up on that.
I can't.
I am curious on how the audience is going to, if they're going to want to see my scalp with the microscope. I am curious about that. I think that would be really interesting to analyze my hair live on the air. Maybe we could get a doctor on the line, either Bauman or Zeiring or somebody.
Well, I think it would be funny because Bauman's going to have a huge screen in front of him. So, I mean, what we can kind of cut from the surgery and just have the densometer on your scalp and see what he says.
Oh, you want to do it that day? I was thinking to save it for a Sunday.
We could save it for a Sunday, but it might be funny to do it live. I mean, he's going to be getting a lot of press for the event, and it'd be interesting to see Andrew Zarian's hair follicles live on the air.
That's what really screws you up. If anybody, I'm sure, and Joe has gone to a doctor. I don't know if he's gone through the densitometer test, and I'm sure many of the viewers have. But that really kicks you in the ass when they take the microscope they put on your head. And you could see the area where the hair is no longer going to regrow.
Yeah, that's heavy. You know what kicked me in the ass? I was drunk I went to a bodega in Queens. This was years ago, and I saw the surveillance camera, and I saw the video of my bald scalp, or my balding scalp. That was really what did me in. That hasn't happened to you yet, right?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
That is a pretty horrifying experience, seeing that.
No, it is. And, it's kind of, I think the doctor that I went to, he's a very qualified doctor. He's a very nice guy. But when he realized that I'm close with Spencer, his attitude and perception of hair loss totally made a 180.
Well, tell me, talk about this. Talk about it. You tell me a little bit, but tell me exactly. Listen, this is what the show's about, so.
I think I walked.
And you're not
into
mentioning
the
any
office.
names, so don't worry about it.
I'm not going to mention names. Yeah, because he's actually a nice guy and a very qualified doctor. So I don't want people to get the wrong
he's extremely
impression.
qualified, and that's why I happen to like him. But he may have kind of stepped back a little bit because he's like, wait a second, I don't want to give this guy any advice that he may go back to Kobren with, and Kobren may disagree.
I went to this guy, and I think he had the idea that we're radio friends, that we possibly work together.
Right.
So I went into the office. It was very, it wasn't a very formal thing. He's like, "Oh, come in, hang out." We were talking, and we started talking about hair loss. He started asking me how it affects me, and I'm like, "Listen, I know my hair is really not bad, but I have noticed that there's some sort of hair loss happening. I don't know if it's a shedding process I'm going through, because I know, you could potentially lose some hair for a couple months and then it stops. The hair loss stops for a little bit and it slows down. But I said, I'm just here. I want to get checked out, possibly go on some sort of medication if Propecia is needed. He and his, I guess, tech, is that what it would be?
Yeah. It could be his tech, or it could be a administrator. I don't know who you were talking to. I forgot.
I don't know if it was a tech or not.
Yeah.
So they put, we're going back and forth, and they're telling me about hair loss and, a lot of the spiel. So they put the densitometer on me. I had to pot Joe down. They put the densitometer on me. They look at it, and he goes, oh, man, this is bad. This is bad. This is good. You still have hair here. They pretty much did my crown, and I have nearly no hair loss on my crown.
But how did that feel, though? I mean, did you get this knot in your stomach when they said, well...
Yeah, I did, and I kind of know what I'm expecting. Like, I kind of know what is happening.
Yeah.
I'm not totally blind to it, and I did get a knot in my stomach when they put the densitometer on.
It's the worst,
they put it on my crown, and my crown area was perfect. When he saw that, I think he realized that, hey, listen, it's not really that bad.
Right.
But, they put in the front, and you could see that, the follicles are not growing at the rate of the other ones.
Well, let me ask you a question. Where would you rather be losing your hair if you had a choice, in the front or in the back?
Whatever's treatable.
Forget about what's treatable. If
at the level of hair loss that I have now?
If neither was treatable, where would you rather lose your hair, in the front or in the back?
I guess, I'm thinking, if the level of hair loss that I have now, it would probably be the crown.
So you'd rather lose it in the crown?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty smart. There are some guys out there that say, well, they don't want a bald spot. But it's, really it's your hairline that frames your face. It's the hairline and the mid-anterior scalp that makes, when you present yourself to the world, that's what people see. Now, they may say, okay, he's got a bald spot. But that's not the end of the world. It doesn't really change your appearance. So I think balding from the crown forward is a much better way than dealing with a receding hairline. Now, I dealt with both. So I have crown loss and I have a recessed hairline, which luckily has basically stopped, since I've been on medication. The crown didn't stop. The crown is slowly, getting more thin overall, but that's what the head paint is for. So
you know why the crown? Because you could get like a partial piece for the crown.
Yes.
And you could cover it, but it'll be mostly your hair, and nobody will ever question a thing.
Right. It's like Ted Danson.
Yeah, I mean, you could just put your hair back, and you could cover it. You could spray it. You could do a lot of things with that. But if the hair is receding from the front, I think that's a lot harder to cover up.
It is. That's why I have to comb my hair. That's why I have to comb my hair the way that I can. I can't comb it back. I would. Yeah. I mean, you could still comb your hair back. If I can comb my hair straight back, I would have like an extra point as far as my appearance.
See, I never comb my hair back. I just started recently doing this about a year ago, and that's when I started noticing more of my hair receding, or maturing, as you say it's a matured hairline. So he does this whole thing, and he pretty much tells me like, the way they did it, it was almost like I was diagnosed with cancer. I mean, it was like a very heavy conversation they were having with me.
It's devastating, man. It really is devastating for most guys, especially young guys. You're still relatively young. I mean, listen, when we hang out all the time. We're always Skyping, whatever it is. But when I'm with you, and this is not, nothing to be offended by, because you got your shit together. But I realize how young you are. I mean, you and Jess are like, you're really young people. So at your stage in life, that's how it affected me as well. When you first start to feel that, and you start to realize, maybe this is happening. It's a devastating blow.
Late 20s. I mean, I'm in my late 20s. It's not like I'm 21, 22, 23 anymore, where I could say, you know what, maybe it's not falling out, or I still have my hair. It could turn any time now. I mean, this is when it starts happening.
I mean, you could be doing the comb over for real, not just as a joke, as the hairy truth.
Yeah, the hairy truth will make a comeback one of these days, Spence.
Yeah.
But so the thing that really got me was, I knew what I was going in from the show and from the Bald Truth, and I was kind of prepared. But when their attitude changed, when they saw my hair, it was almost like this I can't even talk anymore. Laurel and Hardy type bit.
Laurel and Hardy.
They were going back and forth with, oh, this isn't good. No, it's not good. And whenever I started saying like, well, it's not that bad, they looked at me like I was in denial.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Really uncomfortable because I realized that this is their pitch. They play good cop, bad cop.
Well, this is what I want you to do, and I told you this also. We sent you to one guy. I want you to go to somebody else. Joe doesn't recommend this person. He calls him the mortician, but I think that he's a very matter-of-fact, honest guy that will give you the assessment that it might be something good to compare as far as your other experience. Go ahead, Joe.
I have to go in there to take, and I have to bring some narcotics with me to fit into a chest after seeing this.
Was it so bad going to the mortician?
This guy might have bomb Andrew after he sees him. So
no, dude, he's such a professional. He's such a good doctor. He's so good at what he does that maybe there are some people that claim he doesn't have a great bedside manner, but in the end, if Andrew's gonna be helped, what's the difference?
Andrew may not be helped. You make him such a terrible diagnosis that Andrew might do something crazy.
What is he going to do crazy?
He's already no. It's I don't think they'll tell me that my hair is falling, obviously, to the extent that would cause me to jump off a bridge. But what these guys did, they did this whole thing. They're looking at it, and then I think they probably realized that I'm close with Spencer, and the whole attitude changed to, oh, you're not bad at all. And that was what I was trying to get to. They almost went into this mode where it was like, wow, this is awful. And then when they realized that I'm friends with Spencer,
well, how did they figure that out, that we were close?
He was asking me more questions. He was asking me, he's like, oh, so how do you know Spencer? And I told him, I'm like, oh, we're and I pretty much told him we're business partners with something else. I'm not really in the hair loss business. I know a lot about it with working with you, and we do the show together. And I told him about the radio thing, and I think they both got it like, oh man, he's really close with Spencer. Let's change this whole mood here. And it totally changed, and it became a very comfortable situation. But there was this weird moment where it got weird.
Yeah.
It got really weird where I realized that this is their pitch.
Well, I didn't like the idea that
trying to do a procedure on me.
I didn't like the idea when you told me that You know, it was kind of like there was a tech there with the doctor. I never really loved that, especially when the tech, no matter how knowledgeable the tech is, I think should be like it's an intimate relationship between a doctor and a patient, and you're going in for a medical assessment. So I personally think that the doctor should be the one to be providing you with all the information that you need and all the advice that you need and the assessment. I don't necessarily think that it's, in the best interest of the patient to have a tech, no matter how knowledgeable they are, to give you his assessment or her assessment. So that's kind of what threw me off initially. Now I've spoken to the doctor since, and I kind of understand his reasoning, and I do think the guy's doing really great hair transplants. He's a good guy and all that stuff. But perhaps they should have a different approach when they're consulting with patients. I mean, what do you think?
I think you're right. You got another caller if you want to go to that.
All right, we'll take a call, and then we're going to have to close up shop. Let's see who this is.
All right, he's potted up.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Well, the moment that threw me back is when she said, "Hey, you're losing your hair in the crown," and then a couple days later, she said, "You got hairy balls." So, I think if I had to, lose my hair anywhere, I think I would accept losing my hair on my balls.
Yeah, I would too. I'm not a fan of the hairy balls, Marcus.
Yeah, that would be justice if you asked me.
So what's going on, man? How are you?
Well, I had to call because I got to tell you, and I say this with affection, but you know what? I am harboring a seething dislike for Andrew because every time I see this guy's head of hair, I just want to scalp him.
See, this is the problem. This is what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel you're putting him up there to taunt me or something, but I have to accept that life sometimes is unfair. So congratulations, Andrew.
See, thank you for that. No, I look at it like this. Everybody started off at a Norwood 1, and it got worse. I want to keep what I have. So as a preventative measure, I want to know how accelerated my hair loss is, if it's how long I have, what I could do to stop, what I could do to treat it. Because I could guarantee you 99% of the guys in this chat room would say if they had known earlier what they know now, they would have tried to do something to stop it.
And look, and that's true, Andrew. I mean, your hairline has changed according to you. You see a difference. So, I mean, you know better than anybody else. So I think Marcus is, we'd all love to have your head of hair, but everyone that is in this community once had a head of hair, maybe not as great as yours, but, where there was no visible thinning. So
listen, I'm the one to say I don't think I have excessive hair loss at all. I think it's whatever is happening is just starting to happen.
Gradual, yeah.
I've noticed that in the shower, there's more hair in the shower. I can't do certain things I used to be able to do with my hair. The quality, the texture of my hair is not where it was. There's a lot more, single strand hair is just falling down, and that's because it has no other hair to grip onto. So my hairline has changed. Now, if it's a recession or if it's a maturing of a hairline, I don't know yet.
Well, recession and maturing is one and the same. It's just some guys who have a mature hairline just kind of stops for many, many years. It's funny that Marcus congratulated you. It reminded me of something. We were sitting up at that panel at BlogWorld, and Kanal whispers, it goes off mic and says, "You know what? I normally wouldn't do this, but I think congratulations is in order," because he met my wife. And I thought that was the funniest fucking line. He congratulated me on the hotness of my wife.
That's hysterical.
He's a funny dude, man. So it kind of reminded me about Marcus congratulating you about your hair.
A wedding, whenever you go through the reception of a wedding, you always tell the groom congratulations, and you always tell the bride good luck.
Yes.
That's pretty true.
That's true. That's very funny.
Because that's the way it is, because women are hot, right? And we know that us guys are dogs. But in any event, listen, Andrew, if I were in your skull, I would be doing the exact same things that you are doing. You're taking precautions. This is the right way to approach it. However, I would say that earlier you made some comments which were perhaps a little too facile, and this is what I mean by that. We know now, for instance, that quinine comes from the rainforest. It's what helps people with malaria. Childhood leukemia, which used to be a death sentence, has been reversed because of periwinkle. That also came from the rainforest. So when you talk about products coming out of Brazil and so forth, yes, I'm skeptical like you are, and most of them are absolutely spurious. However, you still have to hold out that, you know what, maybe the cure will come from a botanical rather than some laboratory.
No, it's totally possible, and I do think as an add-on, I think a lot of all natural homeopathic remedies do help. They do work to some extent, but I don't think it's right for someone like Steve Jobs, for example, to totally alienate any kind of modern medicine and any kind of medical treatment to go directly to a homeopathic treatment that has not been proved to work. I think there's some.
Steve Jobs is dead.
Yeah, but what cancer therapies have been proven to work, with rare exceptions like testicular and better
skin cancers.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Most cancer therapies, let's be honest, they fail.
It depends on what type of cancer it is. Obviously, sometimes they're able to take the cancerous cells out, the tumor, chemotherapy, radiation.
Well, Marcus speaks from really sad and just authentic experience because he lost his sister to cancer, right, Marcus?
I've lost my sister. I've had cousins and so forth. No, seriously, most cancer therapies do not work. And, the cure rate, the quote-unquote cure rate is 5 years.
Right.
And if you make it after 5 years, you've been considered cured. However, the amount of, if you want to call it, recurring cancers is quite high. People die in years 6, 7, and 8. On top of that, you also have to factor in the quality of life. I've seen some of these people just wasting away in the hospital wards. They call it cachexia. I mean, seriously, these people go in there at whatever age, maybe 40, 50, 60, and they look like they're 99 by the time they're dried out and ready for the
morning. Because they're pretty much putting, they're poisoning your body to fight the cancer cells. My grandfather died of cancer a little over 15 years ago, and this is a guy that went in. He was the bodybuilder, Spencer. I think I've told the story on the air. He was a professional bodybuilder, and he worked with a lot of chemicals. And he got leukemia. Now, I don't know if that's attributed to the leukemia or if it was a coincidence, but he got leukemia. The doctor gave him 6 months to live, and he fought it off for 15 years, and he lived with it. But, the chemicals, all the treatment that they gave him eventually weakened his body, and he died. Now, I wasn't saying that there are some natural
Andrew,
remedies.
you're pissing people off, man.
No. Listen, I do think that there are some natural remedies that do work, but I also think there are a lot of shysters out there that are charging families that have kids that have cancer hundreds of thousands of dollars to get treatment for things that they will never get better.
I agree with Andrew, and I agree with Marcus. I think Marcus makes
one example. I watched this unbelievable documentary. I think it was Dateline NBC was doing. Parents that have kids that are autistic. There's a place in India that claims they could treat autism with some sort of stem cell treatment. Now, we don't know if it's actual stem cells that they're using. They're able to they claim they're able to extract healthy cells and inject it and cure autism. And there are parents spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per treatment to do this. And guess what? There's no medical backing behind this treatment. And this is what happens with cancer. This is what happens with autism, any kind of illness, and this is what happens in the hair loss world.
There's no question you're correct. There are a lot of charlatans walking around there. And your grandfather's experience, that's remarkable. That's fantastic. And we want to hear about more of those. It'd be better. The world would be better if we had those kinds of success stories, but they are too few and far between. And let's not kid ourselves. That same phenomenon that you just described takes place right here in America. How many TV commercials do you see about, come to Oklahoma, we have this facility to do this, that, here, and there.
Sure.
And they're going to treat you right where maybe Columbia Presbyterian won't. they're going to treat you,
Isn't
more
there's a
personally rather than
what is
just
that? What is
some
that?
kind of
What is that
cliche.
commercial? Is it the cancer something center? The cancer.
The Cancer Center of Omaha, I believe it is.
But there's one that's actually it's everywhere. So it's not the cancer. I mean, maybe that's everywhere as well, not just in Omaha.
I think it's a chain.
It's the Cancer Centers of America.
Right, you're trying to treat cancer like it's McDonald's or something.
Yeah, and there's a commercial. I got to tell you, it's funny because I was like, when I see these commercials, I'm like, you know what? If I ever get cancer, God forbid, perhaps I will contact these people. The commercial works. I mean, it seems very compelling when you see these people with this woman with pancreatic cancer. And there's one commercial that kind of sticks in my mind where this woman was told she had 6 months to live, and then she went to the Cancer Centers of America, and her doctor there said, you know what, I don't see any expiration date stamped on your foot, something like that. And that was a very compelling commercial. But you're right, it's marketing. So who the fuck knows?
You know what? And I've been in some of these hospital rooms where the administrators of these drugs, either interns or doctors themselves, they will eventually confide in you and say, you know what? We don't really have the answer, and there's no greater cure than bodily intelligence.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
and yet we're all so prone about, hey, let's take something, let's do something. And this infects our entire culture. Look at politics. Oftentimes the best solution is, hey, just let the natural course of events take place. But politicians, because let's be honest, they're type A's. They were the ones who always kissed ass in class, right? They always inject themselves in the middle of a situation because that's, A, strokes their ego, B, it gets votes.
Well, I was talking about this the other day, and I'm going to have to sign off in a minute because we're 15 minutes after the hour. But I had a bacterial infection, nothing major, but it was a real pain. It wasn't fun. I was given a very strong antibiotic. It was affecting me. I didn't want to stay on it. This doctor wanted me to be on it for a month. What I chose to do is stop drinking, stop eating the normal foods that I ate. I decided to just juice for a couple of weeks and just eat very small meals and completely change my lifestyle. And I will tell you that my doctor is shocked that I was able to basically completely get rid of it. My body fought that bacterial infection without antibiotics. And so there's no doubt in my mind that change of lifestyle, as drastic as it was, and I ended up losing a lot of weight from it as well, is what cured my body. And conventional medicine doesn't really, point to this stuff because they don't fully, it's difficult for them to grasp if you're not taking a pill or injecting yourself with some sort of a poison. Now, with that said, I don't think everything could be cured by diet. But in this particular instance, I was able to do that for myself.
No, you're right. As well as, hey, if you get in a car accident, hey, homeopathy is not going to, help you.
That's right. That's right.
Bone, bleeding, so forth. But lastly, Andrew, I'm with you. And in fact, I would like to see that the system that they had in ancient China at one time, where the barefoot doctor only got paid if the patient got better.
Yeah.
Well, guys, on that note, Marcus, thank you so much for calling in. It's always a pleasure. And I'm glad you sound well. So, call in next week and kind of give us an update on your sex life.
Listen, it got active the last couple of weeks. We will do that next
All right,
time.
we'll save it for next time. Joe, you're potted up too.
Yeah, I have to say, I really didn't enjoy, with all respect to Marcus, I didn't enjoy that conversation that much. I didn't find it very informative.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Joe.
But a lot of people in the chat room will complain about it. So.
Oh, well, you know what?
Yeah,
everyone in the chat room, I'm sorry. Marcus had something interesting to say that didn't necessarily pertain to hair loss. What are you going to do? It's 15 minutes after the show.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said it's 15 minutes after the hour. The hair loss show ended at 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying people in the chat room were not happy with Marcus. That's what I said.
I know that. But we're happy with Marcus. I think
like Marcus.
Marcus always adds a lot to the program. So if the people in the chat room aren't happy with Marcus, I'm sorry. I think we gave him a pretty good show for the last 2 hours and 15 minutes. And, I think Marcus is definitely an important contributor to the Bald Truth, and I like to have him on.
Spencer, you happy with me? People in the chat room are saying now you're not happy with me. And,
I'm happy with you. Why am I not happy with you? I love you, Joe. Come on. Relax.
People in the chat room are attacking, saying that you're not happy with me now.
Who's? I'm reading the chat room, too. No one's saying that. What are you talking about?
One quick question.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a law enforcement officer. I met you last week. I really got the impression you were wearing body armor. Is that correct?
I was not wearing body armor. No, that's just my massive pecs.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Those two Hulk-like three Hulk-like security guards, I guess that was more than enough.
Spencer's like a rapper.
I apologize. Then you are very muscular.
Why am I a rapper? I'm a rapper because my entourage?
You have an entourage, and you wear a bulletproof vest.
I don't wear a bulletproof vest. There's just a lot of crazy motherfuckers out there, man. It's not paranoia. You know, my life has been threatened. This hair loss world is an insane place. So, all right, Marcus, listen, man, thanks a lot. Forget about what these guys are saying, and, don't worry about what Joe said.
I didn't say it. They said it.
I know. All right, Joe, listen, we will talk soon. Andrew Zarian, thank you so much for hanging out and, taking our phone calls. Hopefully, I could have my Comrex system up and running, or at least a replacement by next week.
No, it was a lot of fun. I always have fun with the show.
All right, guys, listen. Let me give out the websites, thebaldtruth.com. If you're a woman dealing with hair loss, you know what? Check out our sister site, womenshairlossproject.com. Also, if you are interested in exchanging ideas, information, learning from other guys who are dealing with hair loss, reading some very interesting stories, looking at great before and after photos for surgical hair restoration, check out baldtruthtalk.com. And until next week, oh, and by the way, I will do my best to have the Histogen interview up sometime tomorrow. So I can't give you the exact time, but it will be up on the site at some point tomorrow, unless something crazy happens. So until next time, I want you all to be strong. God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.